Tell them run it up. I wake up. Yeah. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell them run it up. I wake up, flex, I'm down now. Check, no drip, this wet. Tell them run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck, but first I stretch. Tell them run it up. 9 out of 10, roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me. I love my fans, don't need no friends, I got my homies.
Fire! The kosher clinician. Is SYSBM the new silent revolution? Has mutiny caused many modern men, including black men, to rebel because they feel they're not getting the outcomes they deserve in contemporary relationships? We're going to explore the dynamics of the new SYSBM and why many men are deciding to say, save yourself, black man, from the challenges that they're seeing here in America. Is SYSBM a contemporary of William Glasser's theory of choice? Is it tied to freedom, fun, belonging, and survival and power? What can we learn from this story as many men appear to be going their own way, or many black men are beginning to say it's time for me to focus on myself? Sit back, relax, and enjoy this show as we bring it to you live once again from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Is SYSBM the new revolution? You decide. More or less reduce heteronormative masculinity in your opinion, brother.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, big bro. Thanks for having me on the show. I know you
yes,
got
sir.
And it's my first time actually here. I just discovered it. And shout out to KC, KP from KC5, it's my brother in the live chat.
No doubt. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I was listening to what the other brother was saying before, and he was talking about being from Jamaica. I'm from Ghana myself, and let me tell you something. When we first moved there, and kind of noticing the culture here, they put a lot of pressure on the ADOS brothers. You know, they put a lot of pressure on African American brothers. You know, one of the things I noticed is that they try to bash. I saw a stream one time, or I saw a video one time where they were saying that a lot of the African and Caribbean brothers, you know, they take charge, and we do so well when we get here from whatever country we get here. But
right.
The reason why we do so well is because our women, they back us.
Right.
You know, over
right.
here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of the yeah, my bad. Yeah, a lot of the African American brothers, they don't have, the African American brothers are the only culture or the only group. They don't have anybody backing them. There's nobody that backs African American brothers, like literally nobody. So
right.
Do we do well? You know, do we do well when we go to college, or we do well when we in business, or we in tech, or we do stuff? I know I do well because it's always going to be a support group for me. You get random. Yeah, you get random. If I don't eat dinner tonight in a Ghanaian household, I can literally walk across the street to the Nigerian house and they gonna give me food. Ain't nobody backing African American brothers. Don't nobody back them. So if they ain't got no support, and truth be told, even let me tell you something. I've been around. I grew up here in the 90s. Just a little bit about myself. I went to Notre Dame, and when I was at Notre Dame, a lot of the African American brothers there, when I was slipping, they was the one that caught me. You understand what I'm saying? They was the one that gave me that support. So it's a lie that a lot of the African American brothers, they don't do well. They do well, but you can clearly see that the sisters here, they've joined up with white supremacy. Right. You understand what I'm saying? It might be a controversial thing to say. They've joined up with white supremacy. You can't tell. Nowadays, but let me tell you something. You can't tell the difference between some of these sisters and clan members. Yeah, I said it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
You can't tell.
1,000% I agree with that.
You cannot tell the difference between some of these so-called ADOS sisters and clan members. You can't tell the difference. You really can't tell the difference. So, all this nonsense about, the African American brothers here, they don't do well. A lot of them do great, but you know, you can't. You look around and you're like, what exactly do you want more to do? And I'm gonna finish this off, but I tell brothers all the time, I'm like, hey,
Oh, I love your
who
insight,
jumped
brother. I
out
love
of
your
them
insight.
planes?
Right.
Yeah, like who jumped out of them planes at 50,000 feet while the Nazis were shooting off their parachutes to land up in Berlin to go fight? Those were African American brothers. Those were your grandfathers.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? You know, they built statues for us back home as Ghanaian men. They don't build no statues for African American brothers here. They don't
Wow,
build
that's
no
powerful.
statues for y'all here. Exactly.
Right. I like
But
that.
you know, moving forward, I don't know how our ADOS brothers are gonna move, but if I were you guys, just do the best you can to look out for yourself, because this thing is a done deal.
Well,
Peace.
listen,
Brother.
listen, young man. You got to come back because what you're saying is powerful, and I love what you're saying. And that's similar to what Chris Strongheart talk about, and it's part of what Tim Howard and all the young men talk about. Something called SYSBM. It's called Save Yourself, Black Man. And you're right. The cultural connotations are totally different here in America for Black men. When you think about this last election, guys, that's why guys are saying, you know, what am I giving my allegiance to? I'm not going to call the names, but look at what percentage of our women voted for policies that were antithetical to Black men, Black families, and the Black community. You didn't have to vote for the candidate, but many voted for themselves. They didn't vote for Black men, Black family, Black children, and the Black community, but you still want to continue to use Black men as step stools to get the outcomes that you want, but what are Black men getting back in return? You know, Michael Jackson said it better than me. He said they don't really care about us. And what Michael Jackson said back then resonates and holds true to this point. They did not vote for policies that were more or less beneficial to Black men, Black women, Black families, and Black communities. There was a remnant of sisters that voted for policies. Like I told people, you got to separate the politician from the policies. And the policies that they voted for were antithetical. They voted for themselves. So guess what? Black men are beginning to vote for themselves too. Movements like SYSBM, Introspection, Black Men Are Reform, Passport Brothers. They said, you know what? It's time for us to start loving ourselves. And that's why they're trying to get traditional women like women from Ghana, women from Jamaica, women from South Africa, if they can find them. Chris is a single man. That's why they're beginning to invest in themselves. But, you know, they never do anything for Black men and Black boys, but yet you try to shame us back into servitude. And that's why I said as a clinical therapist, those type of pathologies are not healthy for Black men, and it's not healthy for Black boys. Because when President Obama came out with my fatherhood initiative to empower Black boys, look at all the vitriol that you got. Look at all the pushback that you got. And that goes back to what Jay Bones was saying. They are agents, some of them, to a cultic system called white supremacy, where they're trying to continue to suppress the movement and the thought process of Black men and Black boys. And I have a problem with that. So like Chris has said, and like a lot of men are saying, is that if we can't get our liberation here, we'll get our liberation in the countries where women honor and respect us and giving us the tools that we need. Because I've said it before in the past. Ted Pendergrass said it better than me. He said, you inspire me. And that goes back to what Jay Bones has said. Men are looking for feminine oscillators, women that can oscillate feminine virtues, women that are genuine, women that can protect his ego as a man. She wants feminine protection. He wants mental protection, because the mind is the imprint of the man. So if women want mental protection, physical protection, they got to give men that mental protection that she's not going to betray him once he loses his job. She's going to hold him down if he got to go fight for his country. But many men are saying, like James Ingram saying, 100 ways. It's never enough. So guys are saying, I don't care anymore, because it's not that they don't want Black women. They're just tired of the behaviors of American women and American Black women. Therefore, if they can't get it here in America, they're going to Africa. They're going to South America. They're going to try to find women in the process of relationship capitalism to get the best women that they can get.
Yeah, don't give up anything easy, because they'll try to get you into these relationships, and you don't want to end up a victim. And I do enjoy listening to both Chantel and Lulu Bean. Shout out to them, and I think we need to support women like them. But ironically, they're not American, so that's why I think it's part of it. They were raised in a culture that still respects their men and still thinks their men are the head of the household and they hold value to their men. So, yeah.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree with what you're saying 100%. Hold tight. South Shallon, I don't even know how to say your name, but how you doing, brother? What's going on?
Much better seeing you all.
No doubt, no doubt,
Thank you for having me in here, kosher clinician, and
no doubt.
peace and protection to everyone in the chat.
Right.
Something I mentioned earlier, not to hijack the convo. I just wanted to say as a reminder to brothers, you know, and at least those brothers that are looking for a good mate, the ideal wife, and all those qualities that we look for in terms of femininity and cooperativeness. We have to make sure we maintain and build on what we have to be good husbands. Because one thing that I've heard consistently in many chats, you know, there's always this thing for a wife, and how there are not enough women bred to be wives. But I don't hear any talk of, you know, grooming brothers to be husbands. And that's very important. Now, I'm of Jamaican descent. My parents are Jamaican immigrants,
Right.
and I'm first generation American born. However, any first generation West Indian born child in this country, especially if you Gen X, like myself, we may have been born and raised in the U.S., but see, in our house, that was that country. So in a few house at Jamaica, we're Rias. And my father, just as a standard, he worked 2 jobs, and my mother, she had 1 job. So they had their combined incomes. And there were other families like that I know from my generation that do that. And I'm 50. God willing, I'll be 51 later this year. But I just cite those things and the little things like my age to give you an idea of from my time or my generation over the last half century where we are now. And where we are now, we could do more while we are getting a lot done. You know, there are some brothers here, you know, like here in New York City, quite a few brothers I know we getting a lot done for the betterment of the community, and our women can benefit from. But the thing is, we're not, many of us anyway, are not waiting around like, or like for this type of woman, or going to complain about the type of woman we want. We know what we want, and we work for that, and we gun for that. Those that don't want to be part of the program, fine. If you're going to divest and swirl, that's your business.
Right, right.
The business. I ain't, you know, forcing you or shaming you into doing that. I got things to do.
Right, right.
Because the time that I waste in calling myself shaming you for divesting and swirling, that's taken away from what I need to do.
Right, right, right.
And what I've been doing. So brothers, those of you on course, stay your course, because you'll be surprised of some of the things that are out there, things you may least expect, that's going to thwart you or attempt to thwart you off your path, off your passion, thwart you from your purpose, and don't let that happen.
Well, you know what? I do agree with you in part. I think, you know, we need to add the sentiment. You're now similar to the same age, class of 89, 90. You're now the same age.
Right, yeah.
And it was totally different. But I will say this. I think by and large, I agree with you, and I differ just a little bit, but I see your point. Your heart is right.
Mm-hmm.
I think by and large, American men are more traditional, and they are more husband ready. They still adhere to traditional norms and traditional archetypes, where a lot of modern women are not adhering to that. Men are still expected to be traditional providers, protectors, security and maintenance. Many still have been conditioned to think that you're supposed to love her, protect her, just because. And so I will say that men in America are definitely more husband ready than modern women are wife ready. Now, I do agree with you that the men can get better, but I think they are a lot more husband ready than the current women that we have in society, because you're from a culture where it's normal. You're from a culture where you see the men demanding respect and power. But here in America, you don't see it as much because heteronormative masculinity is not paraded. It's paraded in Jamaica, it's paraded in South Africa, but in America, masculinity is minimized, and it's not just what I call how can I say it? It's not just what I call Africans. Americans, but a lot of times in America, it's not paraded.
I get you.
Right, it's not paraded. Right.
Coach.
Right. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I just have a question for the brother. I believe your name is, you said Shaolin.
South Shaolin Fist, Khaldun. South Shaolin
Okay.
Fist.
All right, cool. My question is, you mentioned that brothers are not being taught how to be husbands. My question is, what do you feel like that is not being said that has already been said?
I feel among other things, one of the things are not being promoted amongst us. Well, some of us are changing that narrative. I know I'm among them that is. And when I say that as a disclaimer, I'm going to answer your question, but I have to say as a disclaimer because Kosher Clinician he said something a while ago that kind of brought reminded me of something. When I say what I say, it's not to bash American men, because I was raised here. So being born and raised here, I would be as American as any other Black American in a sense. But that'd be a whole nother subject another time. I don't want to digress. Now, one of the things I think where we're not being taught, as you know, to answer your question, as husbands, there's some things I would say more along the lines of perhaps companionship, in the sense that some brothers may not be being honest with it. It's like they use the word husband loosely. And you and I understand what husband is. I'm presuming that you do. But I doubt that many brothers out here in the streets you may come across, they may share the same definition as you or myself. I don't know if I answered the question or
No. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you this. Did he ask your question, Chris, real quick? Did he answer your question?
I was just gonna say that in regard to the average brother, I mean, the average brother isn't going to change or come off of a lot of the things that he's been taught up and brought to understand. Just like the same way that we tell these women, we're not going to sit here and fight with y'all and argue with y'all and force you into something that you don't want to be. It's the same thing for these brothers who want to go out here and have all these different baby mamas. They want to go out here and, you know, bring out the worst in the women. You know what I'm saying? We speak on these things. So these brothers who want to go out here and they want to be the so-called Pookie Ray Rays, they want to go out here. They don't have any goals for themselves. They don't have any ambition. They don't have any drive. Those brothers, guess what? They're going to fall too. Matter of fact, those brothers who fall and the women who don't want to change are just perfect for each other. And they're going to stay together and they're going to fester in the same cesspool. So like I said,
couldn't agree more.
You know, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So like, you know, now I'm not trying to say you're wrong, first of all. All I'm saying is just that I was curious. Yeah, no, I'm just dialoguing with you. I was just curious to see what it is that you felt like, you know, you wanted to hear more of. And then I could probably direct you. I could be like, hey, well, this person over here, this content creator talks about that all the time, because there's so many angles that get hit to where, almost like Kosher was saying, we actually, as men, we have to work on how to be less traditional, because that's actually a lot of the things that have gotten us to where we are, is being so traditional, expecting traditional women. That's why it hasn't been working. That's the problem, is us men, our programming is still based off of something that was given to us, or what we were taught and trained to believe from back in the 50s and 60s, and what we thought relationships were. That's where most of us thought we were supposed to go in that direction. So then you see some brothers who kind of turned to the streets and just started doing it their own way. That was actually their retaliation, Get this. That was their retaliation, understanding being a nice guy doesn't work. So they went the way of the thug and the street dude. And they started doing that. Now we're seeing, you know what? We've looked at the data and we said, you know what? Being a thug and the street dude doesn't work either. We need to figure something else out, because even though, yeah, women are attracted to that area of what is masculinity, because for a lot of them, that's kind of all they've really had to see and feel like, oh, he's masculine, but he's also a drug dealer. He's also messing up the neighborhood. He also can't stay out of jail. He also has multiple children by many different women. That plan doesn't work either. So we see brothers like ourselves who are saying, guys, we got to regroup and figure something out, because everything that we have really done up until this point has not given us that great, what they call velvet painting on the wall, or black love was permeating, thriving, and surviving. We've had a fairy tale idea of what it is, but it has not been brought into fruition to real reality still the way that we want it to be. And we're still working on that now.
No doubt. We're gonna move right along. Jay Bones, the legend. You know, I don't know you, so let me see your face real quick, and then I'll bring you in. But I don't know you, so if you can cam up in the back, I'll bring you on in a minute. Okay, I see you, brother. All right. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. I want to ask you a question, Shaolin, South Fist. Has Queen Bee behavior, in your opinion, reduced masculinity? In less than 2 minutes. And then
absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about it. In less than 2 minutes.
Unquestionable.
Go ahead, brother.
In summary, Queen Bee mentality is I could say, like a Trojan horse. It snuck up on many of us. Interestingly, I'll say quickly, I was watching an old rerun of Maud a few nights ago, and now as an adult, I can really intake a lot of things that we couldn't quite interpret as children. And you can see at that time, early 70s, that was the time, that was the very beginning, the toddler stage, if you will, of the gynocentric movement with the sexual revolution and the feminist movement. Now, half a century later, we see all that stuff where women were claiming they wanted before, in terms of, you know, equality, which was a lie. It was again a Trojan horse for to usurp and supplant the man. So now we're in a society like the U.S., UK, Canada, first world countries, where gynocentrism, the Queen Bee mentality, has produced a generation of women to compete with and conquer or supersede men and have men under them. That was the purpose of Queen Bee mentality. Keep men under them.
Under them, right. And in less than 2 minutes, also I'm going to ask you this question. Are American men divesting because of Queen Bee culture? Less than 2 minutes. And then we're going to have a psychic soul train. I'm going to end this stream. But in less than 2 minutes, I'm sorry,
come again. What about divesting?
Are American men, black and white, divesting because of the quality of women that we have here in America, in your opinion?
I see a lot of them doing it or talking about doing it. I don't knock it. I don't encourage it, but I don't discourage anyone from finding a situation that works best for them. Just like martial arts technique, you can practice 10 techniques and say, this is what I would use in a situation, and you don't know what you're going to use until that situation arises. So for the sake of someone, black men, for those black men out there that say you seeking a wife, you know what you want, you know your situation, you find that what's for you. So I don't discourage it. You go, you know, do you? But I do see it happening.
No doubt. Yaziz and J-Bone the legend, real quick, you guys popped on, and then we're going to end the stream in a few minutes. This has been an awesome stream. I try to cut these streams to 2 hours, but it gets so good, I got to keep going. But how would you like to add clarity to the conversation in less than 2 minutes? Has Queen Bee culture derailed heteronormative masculinity, in your opinion?
Yes, I do believe that it has. Number one, you can actually take it back to elementary, middle school stages, when you had the girls who were attractive and how they moved around and who they accepted socially versus the girls who were unattractive, who wanted to be like the attractive female. So they also would diss you socially if you wasn't accepted by them. In order for them to feel like they had to be like those girls that they wanted to be like, they would react the same way as those girls would to the guys that's actually on their level, or even a little better than them. if they were rejected. So that also created like a queen bee culture amongst females. Then in the same sense, in order for the men to be accepted, now it's even dealing with regular girls and the ones that they actually validate or put up on a pedestal, that men start to coddle and give into those ways. And I do believe that the queen bee culture has disrupted and actually created the simps, the white knights, and all of that, you know, and especially the 80s movies. They really drove it home when they use attractive males, but they made them look like wimps, and they had to try to prove themselves to beautiful women on all of those 80s movies, you know? And so we've carried that mentality thinking, hey, we can eventually win over the attractive woman, even if we weren't the dominant alpha male. We start using that blue pill mentality. So definitely.
No doubt. J Bones the legend, how would you like to add clarity to the conversation? Has the queen bee culture? We're going to end this in the minute.